Hey, hello. Yeah, so in my introduction video, I talked a little bit about I was gonna talk about mindfulness and spirituality, but there was one topic I wanted to kind of put at the front of the line and talk about first, but just kind of my spiritual perspective, or a spiritual perspective or opinion on kind of just racial equality, or lack thereof, um, um, in the United States, I guess in the world really, but specifically now in the United States. This is something that's really resonates and hits home really close with me. I've I've lived abroad. After college, I had a lot of international student friends in college from all over the world, and kind of inspired me to go teach English abroad, for about 2 years after college, and a lot of amazing times and just worldview changing experiences living abroad in a totally different culture in South Korea and in Japan. Um, and it just showed me how disconnected, how small the world is, but also how disconnected the world is. I think in America we take diversity for granted. You go to East Asia and you walk down the street, and there's not a lot, depending on where you are, there's not, sometimes no diversity whatsoever. Um, I'll never forget one time I was in a restaurant in South Korea, and I walked in with two of my friends who were Korean, and all the conversations just stopped, and they just watched us. Everyone in the restaurant just watched us like walk to our seat and then sit down, and then the conversation started and went back to normal. But even one of my friends kind of said, kind of whispered to me, "I was like, everyone's staring at us." So, and but I honestly think, even in a developed, modern, um, advanced country in South Korea, I don't think anyone there had ever seen a pale-skinned white person before. That was just eye-opening, really eye-opening. So, and if I have, that's just one example. Just in general, just noting the lack of diversity abroad, and just how disconnected the world is. People coming together of different cultures and different races coming together. Something that's important to me. Something that um, just really hits home with me. So I wanted to talk about that first, I guess. But yeah, so, oh, man, I don't know. Maybe I'll do this in multiple videos. I feel like I have so much to say, but I just, I, I really think this is, I really think there's a spiritual element to race relations um, and just justice and shining a light on the African American community in America, and struggles they've gone through in silence for, I shouldn't say silence, but just not being recognized for so long. And I don't know. I really think there's a spiritual element to this, and I think it's a unique time in that it's, I think, breaking off of a chain of injustice and a cycle of poverty and just injustice towards the African American community. Um, and I feel like this is, some of this might sound different, but again, I'm trying to make it a spiritual perspective on recent events in the U.S. and race relations. But I think it's a breaking off of that chain. I just think, how sometimes in life when we grow older, we have different experiences, we know ourselves, and we'll learn different aspects of ourselves, or we'll notice patterns we've gone through in our behavior, our beliefs, relationships, and then it takes making, it takes time. It takes, yeah, just time and life experience before we recognize those patterns. And then once we recognize those patterns, only then are we able to break free of kind of old programming and habits and just how we see ourselves and what our beliefs are. And I really feel like this is, it's just my opinion, but I really think this is that spiritual cycle, but a breaking of that spiritual cycle on a national level. And I think this could really lead to permanent cultural, spiritual change, positive change for the African American community, but race relations in America in general. I just think I think this is kind of like a connecting, and this whole year really just spiritually what's going on around the world, the country, different things, different countries and cultures are going through. It seems like this is a spiritual time of connecting timelines, from past timelines to present timelines. In this specific instance, I really think this is things like a spiritual mandate that Abraham Lincoln had in ending slavery, and different key figures, Harriet Tubman, all everyone that was involved in ending slavery at that time, both white and black, and even Grover Cleveland, I think, who was the president, if I'm correct, the president following Abraham Lincoln after the Civil War. And I just think, I was kind of just meditating and praying and trying to get a spiritual perspective of what is this? What is going on? What does this mean? What's from a spiritual, eternal perspective? What's happening here? And I really feel like when the Civil War happened, I think everyone that generation, they had a spiritual calling on their life to end slavery, to end racism, and they succeeded in ending slavery. But I think where the spiritual calling and mandate of Grover Cleveland comes in is then the healing. I think slavery was ended, but clearly racism, that kind of, how Obama said it, it's in our DNA of American culture, that the struggle of race relations and getting along and racism is just so embedded in the country. And I think that wasn't fully healed in that generation, in that time. And I think this time is connecting the spiritual timelines from the Civil War to present day. And now it's like it's coming full circle. Slavery was ended, now it's coming full circle to full equality and justice, and just a deep spiritual healing from the residual poison and hatred of racism that in that time, that generation, during the Civil War, where slavery was ended. But I don't think the spiritual dynamics, I don't think the poison was fully extracted. But I do think there's a connection, and I think that's why I just believe from a eternal perspective, this is a breaking of the cycle. I mean, why this, it's just captured the nation's attention, and is just, it started with some people protesting and meeting resistance, to now full on that the organizations that were resisting them or looking down on them are now joining them. So it's, it's just become this tidal wave of a call for equality. So I don't know, some of what I felt like was my insight, my perspective on what's happening, just this spiritual dynamics of what's happening, kind of behind the scenes of the physical, of what we see every day. Yeah, and so I just wanted to say or share, I like when I try to take a spiritual perspective of something, I think it is also, as much as we can as finite beings, to take an eternal perspective of, how is history going to view this? What is, in a history book 500 years from now, what are they going to say was the most effective way or moments that helped bring change, true racial equality to the African American community in the United States, to all minorities, to everyone in the United States. What is the most effective way to achieve that? And I believe something I really strongly believe and am an advocate for and want to share. I just encourage anyone that stumbles on this at some point is higher education, is young African American men and women pursuing higher education, pursuing college, pursuing their undergrad degree, and not even stopping there, getting their graduate degree, getting their master's, getting their PhD. I was on a college campus, getting my graduate degree, kind of at the beginning of this spotlight being shown on racial equality, and man, I kind of knew it at the time, but much more so afterwards, of just how it was such a unique time to be on a college campus in the United States in this time of pursuing racial equality and the healing of the residual poison and hatred of racism. And I was on a college campus, and it was probably, I'm not totally sure, but it seemed like 50 to 70% of the students were young African Americans. Man, sorry, I didn't know I was going to get so emotional making this. Man, I'm sorry. Man, that came out of nowhere. Oh gosh, I'm crying on camera and in my car at a park, but man. Sorry. And I just, man. I didn't realize this was in me. I didn't realize this deep emotion was in me. And, sorry, I'll probably cut some of that out. But I remember on chalk, it was written in chalk on the sidewalk of the school of congratulations and welcome to all the first generation students, first generation college students. And I knew it was about the young African American students on campus. And he was just congratulating them for being first generation. Yeah, man. It was just congratulating them for they were the first students in their family to go to college, to pursue a college education. And it was, it was a tough transition for some of them. They didn't come from families that both their parents had degrees or masters or PhDs. They, to be honest, a lot of them came from the inner city, and it was a tough transition for some of them. But I really believe that is the spiritual calling in this time. Of just more young African American men and women going to college and pursuing their education. And I say that because I genuinely believe that is what's going to break this cycle, the poison of racism and hatred in this country that's been going. Man, I didn't realize it was going to cry so much. But I just want to encourage you with all that I am, with someone who has gone to college, who has lived abroad, while abroad, even though I'm a pale white-skinned guy that has experienced some xenophobia / racism, and I just think this is a unique time. If you're wondering, if you're frustrated, if you're angry, if you're hurt, if you feel left out, abandoned, broken by the system that's unfair to you because of the color of your skin, I just want to encourage you and pray for you and wish all the best for you, and just encourage you to pursue your education, to pursue college, because that is how you become what you were created to be. And they say knowledge is power. And you look at Obama, look at Barack Obama, broke the highest glass ceiling that is there to be broken. And what did he do? It was the habit of reading. And even in his book, he talks about his mom would wake him up before school, and he would complain as a little boy in elementary school. And his mom would say, he's like, well, mister, I don't want to wake up this early either. But she was instilling the habit of reading and knowledge. And that is the difference between those that succeed and those that struggle, is knowledge. Knowledge is power, and it's that habit of reading that is so powerful. They did a study on linguistics and vocabulary, and between the higher classes and people in the lower class. And those in the higher class that come from higher socioeconomic families, by the time they're in first grade, they're first grade kids, their vocabulary is double that of kids in lower economic statuses in the first grade. Something I read in a linguistics book a few weeks ago. But it's vocabulary. The difference in vocabulary as first graders is a solid metric for determining someone's entire outcome to succeed. But that shows just the power of reading. I generally believe if you have a library card and internet access, that you can achieve whatever you feel like achieving. But yeah, I just want to encourage you, that habit of reading, of gaining knowledge, but especially higher education. And I know there's roadblocks. I get it. There's real world. Some people just don't have access. They don't have the vehicle to go there. They don't have the money to get there. I just want to encourage you to, especially if you're young African American man or woman, to just look. Especially now, there's tuition for COVID relief. There's scholarships you can get if you're a minority to help bring balance and diversity to the education system, which is a good thing. Don't ever feel ashamed for taking aid that is created for you. That is to help you raise your social economic status, to help you get educated, to change the community, to reach your dreams. That is there for you. Don't feel ashamed for taking that. It's a why it's there. This country is better off for people pursuing their dreams, especially if you're a young African American man or woman. Just that habit of reading and educating yourself. Knowledge is power. That is how the cycle gets broken. That is how Barack Obama did it. That's how Oprah Winfrey did it. That's how Tyler Perry did it. That's how Tyler Perry did it. So I just, I'm seeing the protest and the call for action, and it's beautiful, And I just want to say, and I know there's negativity, there's a lot of anger too, with the injustice, and the anger boils over, and it creates more injustice, and I just want to say, that if you want to take a spiritual perspective to this time, It's not about crushing your enemies. You aren't here to waylay your enemies. You're here to transcend them. You're here to transcend them. And you're here to transcend the poison and hatred of racism that is seeped into the veins of this country. And you beat it by transcending it. And I know it's tough, and I'm not perfect either, but the inescapable logic is, if you hate a man, you are defeated by him. And it's true. It's if you hate someone, you are defeated by them. You have given in to the poison that they were too weak to fight off. Anyone who was racist, they were too weak to fight off that poison, and it took them over, and they're now a puppet for that. They're a puppet for that poison now. And don't let that poison seep into you. Don't become the same puppet. They were too, honestly, they didn't have what it, anyone who's racism, anyone, if they don't have what it takes to transcend it, don't let that seep into you too. You're here to transcend it. And how do you do that? The best way to break this cycle, I truly believe, is start that habit of reading. Get your vocabulary up. Knowledge is power. And your dreams are important. You are important. And not everyone has what it takes to transcend this poison. But those that do, those that can touch the poison of hatred, or those are coming to it and transcend it, and pursue education and be in the leadership roles to change the country, that is how you break the cycle. That is the single most effective way. And in those history books, 500 years from now, and the 2020 racial attention and the spotlights being shown on racial inequality in America, it's those that are going to break it. It's going to be those that can transcend this and pursue their education and pursue their dreams through their education. I did not think I was going to cry so much, but like I said, this hits home. I just want you to know, I know this is like the second video I made. I don't know when anyone's going to see this, but whenever you stumble on this, especially if you're a young African American, man or woman, and you're angry, you're frustrated, you're down and out, COVID's going on, I just want you to know I'm rooting for you and I'm praying for you, and you can do this. And I just encourage you, start reading, get a library card, read online, Google free books, start that habit, gain knowledge, be curious, study business, study physics, study programming, creativity, whatever ignites your soul on fire. Study that, pursue that. Don't give up on that. Don't give up on yourself. If you're a minority in this country now, if you're a dark-skinned individual in this country now, you are alive in one of the most important spiritual times since, I believe, Abraham Lincoln and Harriet Tubman walked this earth, of breaking this cycle, and you're here now, and you can do something about it. And the best thing you can do is to transcend the poison of hatred, and pursue knowledge, and pursue what makes you come alive. It's a world we need that, man. Especially now. So I'm looking forward to the day we have young African American men and women as CEOs of the most influential companies in this country, as lawyers, as professors, and in all subjects on university campuses. And we're close, and I think this is the spiritual beginning of that. Take hold of it. Time matters. This is a good opportunity. Got my notes. My arm's kind of tired. Knowledge is power. Habit of reading. I have on here Winston Churchill. you could argue saved the world. And he would read a book a day to keep his mind sharp. Um, Worked out pretty good for him. I just have here, those that read will be the ones to take hold of breaking free of this cycle of leadership positions at the forefront of change in this generation.